All right, Tyler. This is a big Batman day.
Okay.
Big Arkham day.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Batman and Arkham is it brings up a lot of thoughts on morality and how would you specifically act.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask both of you really quick questions.
Okay.
Yes or no? No, I don't need to know why because I
Damn.
really want to know. I really want to know, like, who are you at your core? So they're different, so you can't think about it.
I appreciate it. That's more honest.
All right, Tyler, you're first. Okay. You are Tyler Coates. You're no one else, right? You're Tyler Coates, the journalist.
Yeah.
You walk out of your apartment with your fancy ass dog, and you see Batman drop down across the street and he pulls off his mask. And you know it's the billionaire Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Do you report it? Do you break that story?
No.
No.
I'm not that kind of journalist.
Okay. Hey. I mean, that's a big story.
I would text all my friends. 100%.
You would text. That's breaking the story. That's breaking the story.
Oh, well, I wouldn't give it to the news. I'd just go to the group chat.
And you're cheating, but if you, I said yes or no, but if you told all your friends, then you're breaking that story
a select
because
group.
They're going to tell someone. It's going to
You're
come
not in
out.
that group, I have to say.
Okay. Now, Coy. Okay. You are down on the luck. You're trying to pay for your wedding. It's very expensive. And you get offered a kind of shady job because you now have a big physique from all that beef jerky you've been eating in the morning, right?
Yes, ready.
Batman comes and breaks your jaw. Do you sue him? You knew that what you were doing was illegal.
Can you sue a masked man?
Whatever. This is not the question you're asking. You have the opportunity to sue him.
If I have the opportunity,
There's
yes.
a class action against Batman.
Billionaire, I know.
You don't know he's a billionaire. You just know that there's a class action against Batman.
If I don't know he's a billionaire, I don't sue him.
No.
I'm not
I
suing
would join a
non-billionaires.
class action lawsuit against
You'll join the class
If I was
action. You won't
scrolling-
break the story.
Yeah, but if I was scrolling through Instagram and it was like, hey, have you been personally affected by Batman's vigilanteism? I'd be like, yeah, swipe up, add my name.
Wow.
I'm thinking he
Tyler,
does a lot. I like that we switched because, like, I'm thinking he does more good than harm, and I did the wrong, so I wouldn't sue a man doing the right thing.
I'm imagining a world in which we're still like, he's still the Batman?
This is the man.
Not Batman
This
yet,
is
he's
the
just
man who said
the
he was
Batman.
Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but okay. No. That's fine. Welcome to DC Studio Showcase. I'm nerd commentator Frankie Smith.
I'm entertainment journalist Tyler Coates.
And every episode, we're joined by our comic book correspondent and pseudo god, Coy Jandro.
He does his best.
Today we have a very fun episode, as you can tell from our intro.
Games, all right, a lot of gaming.
A lot of
That's
gaming,
happened.
a lot of philosophical questions. I promise the questions that I threw out to you today were important because we're going to be discussing the VR game Batman Arkham Shadow, and we're having actor Tara Strong, who plays Harley Quinn in that game. We're going to play the game in here. I will laugh at you. So what do you know about Arkham Shadow?
I know nothing about Arkham Shadow.
Okay.
This is going to be all new to me.
This is going to be all new to you, and that's fine. So there are 11 installments in the whole Arkham sphere, and that's including mobile games and handheld games. It started with Batman Arkham Asylum, which came out in 2009, and this is the most recent installment, which came out in 2024. It's interesting because it's actually a prequel to the original game that came out in 2009.
Okay.
And the game was so good that it won in the Gaming Awards in 2024 for Best VR Game, which is pretty impressive.
Right.
I know you're an Oscars guy, but the Gaming Awards is a big deal.
It's like their Oppenheimer, basically.
It is the Oppenheimer for VR gaming, I guess.
Put it in a way I can understand.
So now I have to ask, what's your gaming experience? Like, what's your gaming level?
I mean, yeah, I was really good at 007 when I would play it on Nintendo 64 with my cousins.
Okay, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Mario Kart, also a jam.
Nice.
No, I bought a Switch in the pandemic and I got really into Animal Crossing.
You know, there's a whole community behind that too.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of gave it up, but it was kind of nice. You know how you have to like go on like adventures to another island to like get materials and stuff? the first time I did that, I was like packing up like my little guy, and I was like, I'm going on vacation during the pandemic.
Oh, I get
when
to
I can't
leave.
leave the house.
I love that.
I get to go to a little island and just clear the weeds or whatever.
And do it's like
Yeah.
Sims, but with cute
Yeah. Oh,
animals.
Sims also I love. Sim City. I'm like a real. I like. What do you call them? Like
Escaping.
escaping
Yeah.
disassociation. Yeah, I love that. It's really helpful these days.
Yeah. What about you, Koi?
I'm like a PS2 and earlier kind of gamer.
I thought you would be a hardcore
There's
gamer.
only so many hours. Okay, so if I'm reading like 70 of these a week, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to read about 40 to 50 new comics and then 10 to 20 old comics to keep up on like news stories and to give recommendations, it means I'm probably putting in like 40 hours of reading time. And if I get into gaming, I know it'll be the same level of addiction, and then I'll just stop eating or sleeping.
Yeah.
I think I'm the most jealous of gamers. I think of any like fandom thing. It's what if there were 28 hours in the day, I would dedicate 4 to gaming.
I just thought because you're like a Batman fan and everything, you'd be like fully committed to
wish.
all of it. No,
And the comics
no
are great.
sleep,
It's funny,
nothing,
I actually vicariously know the Arkham games because they put them in a format I understand, comic book.
It's only the biggest thing you've ever seen.
That is the biggest shrink-wrapped graphic novel I've ever seen.
It's a
He's cradling
baby.
it like a baby.
The mythology's dope and it's so well written, but then the actual hours and hours of gameplay, I'm like, is there a comic I can? Why, yes, there is.
It's only like 9 pounds.
Because this is the lore that ties into the world. So there's a prequel comic series leading into it. There are games that tie into things preceding the first game, but there's also comics that tie into each and every one of those games. So as dense as the continuity is in the games, there's so much of that connects bridges in comics. And I think that's so cool to have. The game goes mixed medium in 2025. It already is mixed medium because you can learn more of the lore as much as you want by diving into the comics between all of them. Like, that's as close as I get, which feels so weird to be like, I've read the teleplay of the movie. Like, it's a weird way to know it.
I'm aware of the story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
How about you? Are you a gamer?
Never in my life. I think I'd be the biggest gamer in a group of men. But I have a PS5. I'm really big into RPGs. So I play this game religiously. It's called Baldur's Gate 3 and it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And it's one of the most replayable games, but I'm not here to boast it. But either way, it's just to say that I am a really good gamer. I don't know if I believe that.
Hard
I don't
stuff.
know if I
She just
believe-
wants to let us
I
know.
can't prove you wrong.
At this point, I am, I have the highest expertise, it sounds like, since I have the PS5.
That's
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
I have a PS4, but I've only played like 2 games on it.
This is the thing about the game Arkham Shadow. It's a VR game. It's a virtual reality game. So it's not just about the hand coordination like you would with the 64 or the PS2. You have to have actual coordination, which, God gave me so much talent.
Yeah.
Coordination, he had forgotten and sprinkled that in. So we'll see how that goes.
Can I say I'm scared? Because I'm scared. I'm like so worried about publicly embarrassing myself at a thing that I assume I'm going to be awful at.
You're scared for you or me?
I'm embarrassed for me in advance, and you're the most you have the most expertise. I'm not worried about you apparently.
Yeah, I'm
worried
embarrassed for you too. Don't worry.
I'm embarrassed for you too?
all I ask.
Okay.
That's all I ask.
And for myself.
But how cool is it going to be on the flip side for us to get to be Batman? Like if we might externally know that we're in a room, but like we're going to be Batman. There's nothing cooler than being Batman.
And it's fully immersive. Like it's kind of jarring when you take off the goggles and you're like, I'm a regular person. What is going on? I'm not in Gotham. I definitely felt the morality and I felt, I don't know, the gravity of being Batman, especially since unlike when you play like Gotham Knights, you're just playing on a PS5, you're in the world and you're grabbing these guys by their collar and
Okay.
you're punching them physically.
Am I going to have to like flick, tools and objects and stuff?
Yeah, so you can throw the batarang. It's a very cool game. I was into it, and the learning curve, it's very intuitive.
Okay.
You know what I
So it
mean? And
happens
you don't
quickly.
have to walk. So you could be in one area.
Okay.
I live in New York, so space is something I was thinking about.
Right.
You don't need that. You crawl. You look for clues. You know what I mean?
But you're not like in real life, you're not on the
You're
floor
not crawling.
Okay.
Yes. And you speak to people.
Okay.
And I love it because the choices you make and things like that. I love games like that will impact the way they speak to you, the way they talk to you, and stuff.
And like I imagine like we talked about it with Katie Rich, the psychology of Batman affecting like your decisions and stuff. I'm really curious what like moral conundrums we get in playing as Batman. Like, oh, I've got to do this thing. Like even like punching like someone like down on the like that's gonna be so interesting to be in Batman's head. But I've got to play the game. I've got to make this decision.
And what's cool about the characters that you interact with is they are responding to you, right? So if you take too long and idle, they'll be like, what's going on? Like, what are we doing here?
Pick it up, Batman.
Yeah, or they'll get angry. And that's also why I like to play RPGs. I love to put myself in, you know, the situation.
Whereas I'm like coy in this way. I like to be God over Simpson.
You like to be God. You're like,
third party out here watching, not.
But when I say God, I want to be in charge of like zoning. You know?
You said so because that's what Animal Crossing
That's
is.
literally what SimCity is. It's just urban planning.
You're way more legislative.
Yeah.
I love the thought of like, who is Frankie in these situations? You know what I mean? And I think that's why, as I mentioned, I like Baldur's Gate 3 is because you can design the character to look exactly like you.
Right.
But because this is first person, it is even more intense than something like that when you can design a character that looks like you because it's first person.
Yeah.
So I'm looking dead at Jim Gordon and he's stressed. And I'm like, do I want to help this man out? You know, in what way, how clean do I need to go get to him? Or like I'm walking and I see some hoodlums doing some hoodlum things and I'm like, I'm going to go fight him. I'm going to stealthily go fight him. I'm going to be loud and fight him. You know?
Who hasn't asked themselves, what would I do if I was Batman? That's the thing that is the most interesting to me is like on the macro, who hasn't been like, those buildings are pretty close together. Could I make it if I was Batman? Like all the time.
I don't know. Tyler, have you asked yourself if you've ever...
If I have, it's been a really long time.
Some
what
of us
would Batman
still
do?
think these questions when they go to tall cities.
I think it's funny that you're asking... What would I do if I was Batman? And it's the tall cities. To me, it's like I'm rich.
Well,
I'm a billionaire. Am I investing in vigilanteism? Or
I would go to like a lot of galas.
He does both, actually.
He does both.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne loves a good
I know he
gala.
looks great in tux.
He looks great in the tux, and he always got the honeys with him.
Yeah.
Fanciest guy we know. That's the Tyler answer and the Coy answer. I'm like, tall buildings, jumping them. You're like some galas,
He's
some
like,
fancy guy
like,
stuff.
But also the galas
nice.
are always like, you know,
good food.
disrupted by some sort of villainy.
Yeah, but after the food.
But now we get
And
to live that.
that's what matters.
Once the past apps go through, then the Riddler can break through the ceiling or something.
So we're going to have some time to play the game, but we're also going to first bring out our special guest, Tara Strong, who is a voice actor, and she has been in so many things that honestly, I would say, I'm definitely going to tell you guys to IMDb her, but you know, just for reference, she is playing Harley Quinn in this game. She's also played Harley Quinn and Batgirl in DC Superhero Girls. She's also plays Bubble in Powerpuff Girls. She's Raven in the 2003 Teen Titans and also in Teen Titans Go. And I could just be here all day. She's like Sam Jackson.
Credits are pretty incredible. Yeah.
Let's bring her out. Well, thank you, Tara, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Did you know how our set looked when you got dressed?
No.
I love
It's
it.
a lucky accident.
You look
I
phenomenal.
kind of had a guess. This
Yeah.
would be a smart color to wear, but maybe not. Maybe I blend in too much. Can you guys see me?
There's black behind you, so I can see it perfectly.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. You are, first of all, when I look you up on IMDb, it's like an insane number of credits. You're such a seasoned, prolific voice artist. How did you figure out, and when, that you were kind of great at doing voices and many voices?
I always did silly voices as a kid. You know how we talk to our pets or our toys or whatever. I used to like grab my mom's hand and say, let's pretend we're from England when we go in the store. Like I was always good at accents and a singer. And I knew when I was 5 that I wanted to be singer, dancer, actress. I always knew I wanted to be a performer. And I didn't actually know that I was going to do primarily animation. I grew up in Toronto and I really had to beg my parents to get me an agent because they didn't really know much about showbiz. And I finally got an agent when I was 13 and I booked my first on-camera job, which was a show with Mr. T called TNT, and my first cartoon, which was the first time Hello Kitty had a mouth. I was Hello Kitty. And my first, sort of Toronto's version of Broadway show. And I worked in Toronto consistently till I was 20, doing on camera as well as American shows that went there, like Beetlejuice, Care Bears, My Pet Monster. So I had a significant resume before I moved here, which was helpful, although it still took me a couple years to sort of get on my feet, where people were like, who's this girl? And there were like a couple scary like eviction notice broke moments. And then the woman who gave me Hello Kitty, her name is Marcia Goodman, called me and said, will you be in this new show called Gadget Boy and Heather? Will you be Heather? It was an Inspector Gadget spinoff. And I was like, yes, she totally saved my existence. And even then, it wasn't like really rolling until Batgirl. Okay, let's talk about DC.
Let's get to the good
Moneymaker.
Powerpuff Girls.
Which was a pretty hardcore show.
And 100 guaranteed episodes of 101 Dalmatians. And as you know in the biz, you never get 100 guaranteed
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So it was at that moment that people were like, who's this girl?
I love that you brought up Powerpuff Girls. We were just joking in the green room about how like there's a new wave on TikTok. Tyler, I know you're not on it, where
not.
everyone's
It's better that way.
everyone's talking about how the Powerpuff Girls are gangsta and they're
Really?
like wood, yeah, and like how they just were terrorizing Mojo Jojo and
Well,
like
he was a very bad monkey. Who does Mojo think he's kidding? Hi, Mojisha. Hi. Okay, but what's he up to? Definitely no good.
they would just beat him up unprompted. There's an episode, Mojo Jojo's just going through his daily life. He's cooking, he's cleaning, and the Powerpuff Girls would just break through his home and just start beating him up.
They're so hilarious, though. It's such a hilarious show. Like, I remember when we first started doing it in the early episodes, I'm like, y'all, we're being chased by broccoli. Like, is anybody going to understand this? What's happening right now? And then every kid had the backpack, and it was like a huge hit, which was really fun. We had so much fun doing that show.
When you're doing these kind of grand roles, what inspiration do you pull from when you're creating these voices? Because your voices are so different every time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm very conscientious about that because, like, let's get weird a minute. They feel like their own entities to me. So when someone's like, hey, can you do Timmy Turner on this show? I'm like, no, because he already lives on that show. So each voice has to be somewhat different. And the inspiration comes from the creative team. Like, they'll give you a drawing of the character, a character description, and sides, which are a portion of the script for the audition. And then you, as the voice actor, have to try to think, what do they want this to sound like? And then with that said, you also have to give them something they weren't expecting, because everybody's going to do that. So how do you stand out? There are hundreds or thousands of people auditioning. And since COVID, we do all that at home. So sometimes I will spend hours in my studio, in my home studio, coming up with a character that sounds like it could fit that voice. Or maybe it's completely opposite. Like, maybe if there's a really ugly worm, it's kind of hilarious if she sounds like Marilyn Monroe, like something they didn't think about. And I'll just keep playing until I send something that I think is special, because you have to have that sort of element that someone else doesn't have. And that element includes giving it life. And what would that character sound like? Laughing, crying, what kind of being is it attracted to? And, you have to think of all those things as an entity. And then when I speak as that character, I see myself as that being, and their voices coming through me, or else the action wouldn't come to life and it wouldn't mean anything to people, right? We're not just reading. You've never seen a session where people are just reading without moving a little bit, because we sort of become these characters.
Do you feel like the auditioning process has changed for you now that you're Tara Strong? You're like, I would say Sam Jackson for you of voice actors, but for you it'd be like Philip Lamar level, where it's like, you're so well known and you're so good at what you do. It's kind of like, are you just calling people like, yeah, I want this, and then you hang up?
I wish it were that way. They don't really have that star system in voiceover, right? You could, like, I started when I was 13. I'm 51. And so I've been doing it a long time. And you'd think by now, also, like, there's been these very magical, serendipitous moments where a lot of my characters have meant a lot to a lot of people. Like when I go to Comic-Cons and people are like, I didn't have any friends till My Little Pony, or Raven saved my life. Like, these things are very meaningful. And so it's like, probably put me on the show and it's going to do well. Like I've got a pretty good track record.
And you
I
heard
still
it.
have to audition all the time. I audition all the time. The thing that's changed over the years and since COVID is that auditions are now from home, which is good and bad for on camera and voiceover because you can take the time to make it right. But when you're in a studio with someone, if they're like, can we make it a little bigger, a little smaller? Can we make this faster? Can you make her French? You don't get that, right? So there's pros and cons. I miss having a full studio where we all work together and play off each other. But when there's records that we are used to, like the Teen Titans, we still work together every Friday on Zoom. So we still get to interact with each other.
Yeah. Well, of all the characters that you voiced, do you have a favorite?
My favorite job I ever did was The Little Mermaid 2 because I was such a big fan of the original one. And I had the poster in my bedroom in Toronto growing up. I used to run around impersonating her, and I got into the studio, and Jodie Benson shook my hand, and I burst into tears. I was like, she's like, are you okay? I'm like,
That's a big deal.
I just loved you my whole life. And like to sing with her in the studio, like I could have died the next day. It was like really, really wonderful. So that's like a standalone. But in terms of characters that I feel very connected to that I love to do, for sure Raven, for sure Batgirl, and Harley's like my therapy. Like the DC girls are really, really special to me. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. Yeah. They're part of me on a really cellular level.
I love that. I love that.
To speak about Harley, you've played her in so many different projects. How do you develop who she is versus which show she's in or which game she's in? And do you like bringing her back in very similar ways, or do you want it to be kind of very different each time?
That's a great question. So you always have to know what the vibe of the show is.
Yeah.
You can't be silly Harley like in the DC superhero girls when she's at school with Babs and their friends and they don't really know that they're enemies, right? She's still a high school kid, and something that would be very dark or a very serious moment in something like Arkham City, Arkham Knight. And they're both fun for me. Anytime I get to play Harley, Batgirl, Raven, if I see them on my script, I'm super happy. And it used to be video games were like, you know, it's you for 4 hours. There are no other actors you're playing off of. So even if you're not doing a million death sounds, you're going to get tired. And sometimes that can make you cranky. But if it's Harley, never cranky. Like, you know, she started out as a sidekick for the Joker. And over the years, she's really become her own power. And during her metamorphosis, I was going through similar things in my relationship. So like I'd be in the studio saying, he thinks he's so great. And I'm like, oh, yes, I want to say that, you know? And I always felt like I was just getting it all out with her. And like, for that reason, even though I understand I wasn't the first, I'm not the last, it makes me angry when other people play her. I'm like, she's mine. Like, she was my power. I just love her so much. And I love playing any iteration. And they'll give it to you when you go in. They'll say, this is the vibe. This is the feeling of the show. You'll read the scripts. Like, certainly Arkham Shadow was so much fun because that felt more like shooting something on camera. You had to hit your marks. You had to be off book with the dialogue. You know, when we do an animated show, it's right on our scripts in front of us. But for that, we had to be off book and we had to suit up and be on a soundstage and hit all these marks.
You'll have to excuse Dr. Crane. He was brought in to replace the outgoing supervisor, Professor Strange, and, well, he has a very narrow view of therapy. But while Crane and I don't always see eye to eye, we do share a common field of study.
Yeah, what's that?
The Shadow. Come on, new friend. Let's join the others.
The biggest difference between on camera and shooting mocap is you have to do the different versions for the players, right? So if I'm like, well, let's just go, and like the player's taking a while, then you have to have your like moments of like, all right, here we go now. And like, you got to give them each of those moments before the next line. And Batman, Roger Craig Smith had his camera here so that the player is Batman. So like when you're playing to him and you have this moment, you still got to wait for like the idle lines, right? But other than that, it feels like on camera, and it really felt like I got to become her.
Yeah. Honestly, you were really scary.
Yes.
You're really scary in that. You feel the gravity. I played the VR game and then I watched a lot of it after. I have no hand-eye coordination. But you really feel the gravity, and I couldn't imagine doing motion capture where like I'm beating people with my bare hands and I'm like, what have I become?
Well, you really feel like you're in those moments. It was really fun to do full body mocap. I've done facial mocap before, but not full body, and It was a pretty extraordinary experience. And like the things that you love about voiceover versus the things that you love about on camera, you sort of got to put them together in that medium. And it was really, really fun.
With your connection to the character herself, I've always wanted to ask you, you're always overcoming as Harley Quinn. She's overcoming Mr. J, she's overcoming Arkham, she's overcoming the medium of TV itself and breaking from TV into the comics. What do you think it is about the character that so many people adapt to and she's so versatile, but she also is so powerful to us? What do you think Harley Quinn is to the viewer when you meet people?
I think she just represents so much of that personality where you felt before, like maybe you were a side character, maybe you didn't matter, maybe you didn't know your own power, and then coming into your own power and then growing. I think we're all here on this planet to grow and learn and share as much of light and love. I know that sounds cheesy, but I think that's what we're here to do, right? How can we help? How can we make people better? And she keeps getting better in her own power and not putting up with abusive situations or people, and like standing up for herself in ways that obviously I'm not going to carry a bat around, but like emotionally, where like, okay, I'm going to put up this armor. And I think a lot of people identify with that. And, you know, I talk to people online all the time or at Comic-Cons. I really love going to Comic-Cons because the interaction that you get from the fans is so beautiful. Like there was this girl dressed, a lot of people cosplay as my characters. One of the biggest is Harley and Raven. And this young girl was dressed as Raven and she was talking and talking and talking. And I look over and her mom is bawling, and a lot of people cry when they meet me, but this was like unusual. So I went to check on her, and she said that her daughter is severely autistic, nonverbal, hadn't spoken in 5 years, and when she heard I was coming, she didn't shut up. Wow. I was like, wow. This other kid, I'm going to tell you one more that's going to make you go wow, is in line, and his mom scoots in front of him, and she's like, I don't know why he wants your autograph. He was born deaf. He's never heard your voice, and he wanted a Harley, right? So I know enough sign language to say, do you feel the vibrations of my voice? And he said, yes. So I took his hand, and I put it right here, and I went, hi. I put it, and he went, and the whole line just starts crying, and it was so sweet. It was so wonderful. So she's like strength for people, you know?
And I imagine too, like with animation, you're probably just naturally seeing a younger group of audience members, which is, I think, is like,
I don't know,
You'd
like
be
cons,
surprised.
at
Well,
Comic
yeah,
Cons, we
but-
had babies and we had people in their 80s.
Right.
I'll have like 80-year-old people dressed up in My Little Pony characters going, I know it's weird, but we're fans. I'm like, why is it weird? Like,
Yeah.
nothing's weird at
Tyler's
Comic
saying
Con.
it on the show where he shares with two 30-year-olds. Yeah. And we're like, we love the animated series.
Yeah, because you know what? Anything animated, and I think like when you look at the excitement of Superman coming out, like it takes you back to childhood,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So it's like really fun to relive all those moments with these characters, and the fact that we keep getting iterations and getting to see them in different worlds, and also getting to grow like with time and like what's current. Like I think DC in particular is really good about staying current with what's going on. I mean, oh my God, I loved the Penguin. Oh my God, I love that so much. It was so good, and I love Batman stuff really dark, and it was like that was dark.
Pretty dark.
That was
It's
so
pretty
fun.
dark.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear that you like dark things.
I do.
Because you're like My Little
Very
Pony.
bubbly.
I know. I'm really like
You're
a bubbly,
powerful
happy
girl.
person. Actually, I thought at the audition for Teen Titans that I was going to book Starfire because I was already doing like 5 kind of tragic DC characters. I was doing Batgirl. I was doing Sharina Wicket. I was doing Kylie from Extreme Ghostbusters. That wasn't DC, but like a bunch of the same sort of things. So I'm like, how am I going to make this girl different? And Starfire was in the character description said she's a grown-up Bubbles. I'm like, well, I'm grown up Bubbles. Like I'm very Bubbles. Like that's probably going to be me. And then as I was leaving, like I just had this like God shot, like to try something else. And I asked Andrea Romano, who I was working with on Batman, can I try one more thing? And it wasn't like a plan. I just had this idea that she had this rule every time she said anything in the back of my throat. And they were like, oh my God, that's Raven. It was like that.
Iconic.
Yeah.
I never knew I could feel this much hatred for a pastry.
And you're Raven on both shows, right?
Yeah, on everything. Yeah, they kept the same cast, which is why I think that show works. Like, I think if you did Teen Titans on Ice, people would probably come, you know? Like, we're such a family, and people have grown up with us, and we have fans all the time, every day, saying, give us a season 6, and we creatively, like, don't understand why we can't do both, because they're different shows, but they're the same characters that people love, and this one's really funny, and this one's really dark and serious and cool, and I think there's so many stories to be told for both versions, which is why it's so cool that multiverses is like a big thing now. We get to play around with that.
With the characters you've played, their evolution is in so many different mediums. Like we're evolving them in comics and movies and video games now. What's it like for you since you attach so much to these characters? You said they've all got their own place in your head. How is it to watch them evolve? Do you feel like a proud parent? Like you're a parent yourself, but like what's it like to see them go off on their own adventures, embodying them between periods of time?
I don't really see them as their parent. I see them as me.
Yeah.
So if I'm like, I'm not good. Like I'm not good at playing those games, but my boyfriend is. So I'm like, can you get to me? I want to see me. Like I want to. I buy all my toys. I love me. Like I love anytime one of my characters is getting love from other people, and there's a new version or there's a new game or product or stuffed animal. Like what a fun! I'm so lucky. What a fun
Do you
life.
have like a space in your home that's just like an altar to you? Differently?
Your own shrine.
your
That's
own vault.
No, but I will soon because I just moved to my home and we're building like a recording studio out of an old barn, which is really cool. So I'm gonna put a lot of my characters and stuff around there. I have so much stuff like in storage right now, like original scripts from stuff that I've done since I'm a kid and toys, and it's fun to collect all that stuff.
It could be like Barbara Streisand's basement. That's at the mall. And like every store, like you could have the bookstore with all your scripts.
I mean, I don't really have pictures of myself up, but I have pictures of my characters up.
Right.
You know what's fun is I have an original cell from Hello Kitty, which was, again, my first job, up on the wall. People are like, what's that? Because they don't do cells anymore.
Right, yeah.
And I have an original drawing of Raven,
What do you mean
Murakami.
cell?
Like an animation cell when it was still like
okay,
See?
okay.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
don't know that
exactly.
anymore.
Yeah.
Now everything's on the computer. That's okay.
No, but it's like
That's right.
you know, it's like
Yeah.
basically the celluloid of an animated.
Yeah, it used to be how they did it. So you could get classic cells of all your favorite shows, and they're like beautiful art pieces.
So how is it to jump from something so light, like you have very, very light shows, and then like something dark and gritty? Like, is it odd? Have you ever voiced like two different characters on the same day and had to like change?
Yeah,
your
a lot,
entire
a lot.
perspective?
I don't confuse them usually. Like if Harley's in a scene and she's arguing with Batgirl, that's gonna feel real. Like I'm not gonna suddenly do Ben 10 when I'm supposed to be doing Bubbles. They're their own entities. I'm lucky that I've really had such incredible opportunities to be able to do so many, right? Like when you're doing an on-camera thing, I'm not going to get the opportunity to play Timmy Turner.
Right, yeah.
But in the animated world, I can be anything, and I have been, and I just feel very lucky that as an actor to get to play and become all these characters. And then, you know, when you're doing an animated show, it's not like doing a theater production. You don't know the instant whether someone likes it or not.
Right.
And then when you go to a con and you see people crying and saying, this show really gave me something to live for, this is the time where my family and I sat together, like it's so beautiful to have that exchange of love when you go there and see what it meant to people. People will come over to me and say, oh, I have a funny voice, should I do voiceover? Do you have any acting experience? I actually just started a class online because I would get asked all the time, like, how do I get started? Every day online, how do I get started? And I didn't really want to teach because, like I said, I still audition all the time. I
Right.
can't guarantee my self-work, let alone someone else. But I thought maybe if we make it a community, and my boyfriend and I were really talking about how to make it for everybody. And I thought I would just like wing it because I do that at colleges. And I sat down and I couldn't stop. And there's like 20 classes, hours and hours of just information that's been in my head forever, and a community. And there's animations on the site where kids can actually see themselves, or anyone that wants to get into voiceover, see themselves animated. That will be seen by casting people. So it's like more community based. So I feel good about that because it's like everybody wants to get into it because it's so fun.
Yeah.
And it really is that fun. Like,
Well, I love to hear about it as a community because, as you were saying, like since the pandemic, like it feels like it's a much more solitary acting experience, which is so different than I think what people think of acting.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me that you can do what you do kind of on your own without like that immediate like scene partner relationship necessarily.
yeah. And after you've been doing something for a while with a cast, you kind of know how they're going to say something. But every so often, someone's going to do something different, and it's good for you to listen.
Right.
Because if the actor's like, we got to get out of here, you might go, okay. You know, you're going to sort of play off of them. And that part isn't as present when we don't do full cast records, but it's nice that we have Zoom, and we can even do all my ADR is from home and even singing stuff. It's amazing, the technology.
Well, we loved having you here.
Thank you. Thanks for
You're
having me.
iconic.
Thank you.
I don't think there's anyone in this studio who hasn't heard your voice before, which is.
true?
Well, yeah, I just
mean,
pressed
even if we
everyone.
Didn't know, even if we didn't know.
Lie right now for me. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
joining
having
us.
me.
No, we loved it. We were excited to hear you come in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And to everyone at home, you're just as fun as you are.
Thank you.
You did voices in the makeup room.
I know. I
loved
walked
it.
in and it was like, who is this character?
I'm always doing voices all the time. So it's good and bad, right? Maybe you'll find that annoying if you come over.
If you come over, is that an invite?
Yeah, come on, let's go to my house.
I
now.
make incredible empanadas.
You do?
I actually
Can you make some
do.
vegan ones for me?
Yeah, with beans.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Perfect.
Sorry, guys, we gotta go.
Thank you. That was a great interview. Tara
Yeah.
is so much fun.
She's so fun. And the way she just like becomes characters sitting here.
That's why she's a
Insane.
go, honestly. Well, are you guys ready to play some games?
I'm Batman.
Well, Tyler is our first victim of the game. He has on the MetaQuest VR headset. So what are you seeing now?
Well, I'm looking down and I'm seeing how jacked I am.
Yeah.
bat training.
It's
great,
actually
incredible forearms.
It's actually 1-to-1. That's how you look, Tyler.
Oh shit!
Oh, Tyler just landed his first punch and it was a beauty.
He went flying.
That was amazing.
Tyler,
to
have you
watch.
done this before?
No, well, aside from just
In the
street
streets.
fights, yeah.
Yes.
Damn.
You have power. So for those of you at home listening to the podcast, Tyler
Just Batman
is
66 sound effected, by the way. It was
I just did a
quiet, but we all
boom.
heard him.
I
Boom,
just did-
pow.
okay.
Look at all these
Look at
fisty
you.
cuffs.
Also, don't punch us. So maybe take one step
Okay.
back.
If you don't mind.
Okay.
When you see the arm, just punch out with your arm. Yeah. Okay. But
I
like
didn't-
while it's blue.
Because he's behind me, I think.
Yeah, but that's like you're Batman. You don't turn. You have a cowl on. So all you're gonna do is punch out to the left or punch out to the right.
So my
Well, not that's like forward.
Oh, I see, like a back slap.
No.
No, I feel like my fighting skills are being questioned.
and that's okay. I think you got it though.
He's got a bold technique of fighting over his own shoulder, which frankly I've never seen, and it's working.
Guys,
I
yeah.
love looking down and looking up and comparing
just like-
Batman to Tyler, Tyler to Batman.
I will say it's really satisfying to punch people in the face.
Like,
No, Tyler's having a great time.
look at the joy.
Oh,
Audio listeners, there is a Cheshire grin across the
I
big
think I
face.
just like grabbed him by the head
Yeah,
and then
you
just
scruffed him.
threw him.
Yeah. Okay, wait. There's like 4 people. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay, so
remember
Tyler
the
has taken
side.
on
The side. You
4
gotta.
Oh shit!
There are a lot of guys, different
What?
angles. They have weapons. They're swinging them. He is doing his best.
My question is, what is their motivation? Why are they there?
But
'Cause
why
I'm Batman.
violence? I think it's
you're
'cause Batman.
He's Batman.
They are robbing this theater blind.
They are in the theater. Maybe that's their headquarters.
It's a theater of violence.
All right.
You won! Wow.
really well.
This is cool, man.
I
This is
didn't
fun.
do well at all. I only got 1,000 points, so I'm like I'm out of breath.
1,100 points.
Yes.
Corey just put on the VR headset. He's ready to go.
Corey already has a stance ready. He's sharking
There you
us.
go.
He
Wow.
already knew what to do. He's wailing on
I
these
kind of
people.
taught him, but
I mean, that's true. I
he
did
he
go
learned
second.
everything
cheated.
from me.
I was the second, so I had to learn from the master.
Corey, you're way too good at this. Why are you so
I
excellent?
feel like I'm watching someone play Taibo.
Who are
If
you
it were a
thinking
game.
about while you're in full form?
YouTube commenters. I'm Batman.
I don't like how good you are. You're snapping these punches a little too easy.
Wanted to do this all his entire
Yeah.
life.
He was
I've thought about
playing
being
us.
Batman for a long time.
So how does it feel to do you feel like you're actually punching
What's
them?
crazy is I know these guys aren't in front of me, but since the punches have that haptic feedback and since I'm physically punching, there's a sense of urgency.
Right.
I'm aware that I'm safe, but I feel my adrenaline. I feel an urgent energy.
Okay, so what do you see now?
So I see that I am the knight. To be Batman, to be vengeance.
There you
Feels
are.
pretty great. So it's interesting because there's some requirements for uppercuts and haymakers, but every so often you'll feel that guy coming at you from the side. So then it's an arm extension, which feels more like a kempo. It's a different I don't know. There's throwing punches, but there's also the extra awareness of being in 3D, which you don't get in a regular game. You're in this game.
Also, Poison full fighter stance.
But you know what? This is the quietest he's ever been.
Whoa.
Enjoy this piece.
Let's get in some segments for the podcast.
So now we can finally talk about stuff. Here we go.
Okay, so
Where
what do
are
we
we?
got?
Points.
You beat me.
750.
Pretty pathetic.
You beat me.
To be honest.
Nice, son.
It's because you didn't use weapons. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Well, I'm gonna
This is
cheat
like,
then.
this is why I don't play games. This would be a lifestyle. All right, Frankie is up. She has donned the MetaQuest cowl.
Wow, this is great. I love it. You could really feel the gravity of punching someone out, you know?
This is like the most positive.
I know. It's really, yeah.
You know? And it's like, what did they do to me? It doesn't even matter. Okay, wow.
Here they come.
Wow.
Here they come.
All right, now they're coming two at a time, so you got to be mindful. There you go. Surroundings, nice combo, beautiful work.
Wow.
He's getting back up. All right, don't let him teach you. Like, there you
Yeah.
go. I
You
didn't
said you
press
could
buttons.
use
I
the
just
grab.
punched.
I think
Oh! I saw that last two-hander. Wow. You were like, oh, look at Coy fighting. I see what Frankie did.
Why am I doing this? Why am I wailing on them like this?
Man, that
Oh,
Frankie,
maybe it's because I pressed the button. How
Frankie
did I
frenzy
get there?
is something to
Frankie,
see.
You're asking questions only you can answer,
Yeah.
honestly.
You're like-
Why are you doing
We're
this?
learning a lot about you with this Frankie frenzy.
Shake his ass.
Two-hand
Shake
punch.
his ass.
It's like,
Wow. Look at you, look at your hands
at
like,
these-
what have I done?
Look at my hands.
Who am I?
this is way okay.
Whoa, they're like
Oh,
X-ray. What
you had
violence
X-ray
is going
vision.
on?
What?
What is happening?
Because I'm just pressing
She already
buttons.
has so many points.
Wow,
She
she's
already has so
already
many
beaten
points.
both of us immediately.
Wow.
Wait.
This technique, whatever, there's
What,
a cape
she's-
use? What is that?
She
Did
just
she
beat the
twirl?
shit out of someone with a cape.
What is
Okay.
happening? What
Okay,
did she learn in
I have
training?
fire.
We didn't learn.
Wow, this
Fire?
is great.
What is, this is a different
I was like floating.
array of violence. What? And it's a, what?
Yay!
6,585?
That took you half the time.
She has more than both of us combined.
Yeah. All right. Who is this? Oh.
For those of you listening, our producer just scared the hell out of Frankie, taking her headset off.
So obviously, I am actually Batman.
I've seen that.
You
Been
could
meaning to tell you.
kick the hell out of both of our asses.
This was fun.
Apparently.
I feel a sort of catharsis.
I feel better having punched some people today.
Really.
Do you feel like your heart rate is up? Like you can?
I'm jazzed.
Yeah.
But not, I mean, obviously there's like some physical parts to it, but I mean, the music and everything, I'm just going. Like, let's go
What was
to
your favorite
war.
part?
Was my favorite
Favorite
part?
like, element.
I think punching someone across the room
Yeah.
with one punch is really good.
Favorite element?
I loved shaking someone by their neck and
Oh.
then throwing them to the ground.
Okay.
I like when I got swarmed and I had to like combo like defense. I like when it was like overwhelming and it was just like must fight. Like, I like
gotta
the
do
frenzy.
this.
Like that felt great.
The fire was kind of cool too.
My favorite thing
I
watching.
mean, I don't even know how the fire.
I don't know what you did.
What you were
had a
doing.
different game going by the time. Like when I looked at the screen, I'm like I saw none of this.
She's
of
on a
her.
different
I
level.
just was
mean,
pressing every button at once.
Yeah, I didn't button smash. I like stayed punching. I didn't think of buttons. I was too busy
The
punching.
trick is not to listen. And that's how you get it. Yes.
My favorite moment of the entire experience, though, will forever be Tyler punching over himself.
Yeah.
Literally, like, he turned his body like someone was controlling him separately and then punched, like, a diagonal over him. I've never seen that. Like, I watch UFC every...
I couldn't see it either.
Mine
It was
was
amazing.
the sound effects of Tyler, definitely.
Pals.
So,
boom,
she may have
pals.
won points, but you won our hearts.
Thank you.
It was really wonderful.
win.
The people's Batman.
Yes. What a kind soul. That's very limber.
Well, that was definitely an experience. You guys survived.
I'm still here.
Well, before we wrap things up, I wanted to take time to do our showcase spotlight. Tyler, what do you have for us today?
So the movie I'm thinking of a lot lately, another movie I loved from last year is A Different Man, starring Sebastian Stan.
Okay.
He was nominated for an Oscar for the wrong movie, in my opinion. He was nominated for The Apprentice. He should have been nominated for A Different Man, which is an incredible movie. I think you should check out. It's funny, it's weird, kind of fucked up.
Okay,
All
cool.
the best things.
Koi, what do you have?
In honor of the Irish holiday, St. Patrick's Day, I want to give some love to my favorite comedy of all time. Tied for first with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is In Bruges. I think In Bruges is the funniest movie I've ever seen. It's one of the most rewatchable comedies I've ever seen. It has a beautifully dark Irish ending. It is line for line brilliant. It is a movie that helped reestablish Colin Farrell as not just a pretty face. It stars Brendan Gleeson, Colin Farrell, Ralph Fiennes, and it's so funny. I have to pause it because I'm laughing over other lines, and it's near and dear to my heart.
Hear me out here. I'm going to put out Gossip Girl, which is also on Max. It's about teens doing very questionable things. And at this point, it's a time capsule of the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the performances. I love just thinking about what I would do if I was that rich and young. And I think it's a great way to tie up the morality questions I was asking earlier.
Also, Sebastian Stan was on that.
Oh, he was.
He got a start on
He
Gossip Girl, I
was
think.
Carter Basin.
Nice pull.
Yeah, I watched too much Gossip
You did not have
Girl.
to Google that.
I was so impressed with the
I
speed,
watched a
too. She's
lot
like,
of Gossip
"And yes."
Girl.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out these comics, all of these comics and more, you can head to the DC Universe Infinite app so you don't have to break your back, but it's worth it. Buy some comics. You can also check out your local comic shop, ask for these comics. But either way, DC Universe Infinite app is an amazing place for comics. Go read some comics.
Well, thank you all for joining us again for another episode of DC Studio Showcase. You can catch new episodes every other Friday, and you can also watch full episodes of our podcast on Max's YouTube and Spotify. But you can also listen to us everywhere that podcasts are available.
And where podcasts are available, you can also review them.
Yes.
That's something you can do anywhere.
Yes.
So please give us a great review. It helps us out. And we love seeing those nice comments.
I do like seeing those nice
And speaking
comments.
of which, they can also find us on social media.
You can find me on all social media platforms at Fantastic Frankie, FRANKEY.
I'm on Instagram and YouTube at Koyjandreau, COYJANDREAU.
And I am on Blue Sky and Instagram under my name, Tyler Coates.
That's all we have for you today. Thank you all for joining us again, and we'll see you next time.
This was an OBB sound production for Max and DC Studios, hosted by Frankie Smith, Tyler Coates, with comic correspondent Koyjandreau. Executive producers for DC Studios, Phil Soponides and Gary Barbosa. Executive producers for DC are Mike Pallotta and Victor Diaz. The executive producer for Max is Becky Rowe, and producers for Max are Savon Slater and Margaret Kelly. The executive producers for OBB are Michael Ratner, Scott Ratner, Arlen Konopacki, and Toby Lawless. Research producer Sam Harrison. Production manager Kevin Lynn, and the studio coordinator Elijah Matias. The director of photography Heath Gresham. The first assistant camera Chris Piper. The camera operator Ben Cohen. Gaffer, Arthur Garcia. Key grip, Sam Satoski. Key grip, Alessandro Picasso. Production designer, Francesca Maldonado. Set director, Oscar Huezo. Lead man, Camilo Castano. Sound mixer and editor, Josh Falcon. On-set mixer, Darren Bowling. Composer, Ethan Walter of The Ringers. Post-production supervisor, Mariana Crisostamo. Editor, Jesse Holland. Assistant editor, Mark Alcacid. Hair and makeup artist, Kendall Shannon. Our Associate Director of Social for OBB, Lenore Castro. Senior Coordinator Social for OBB, Sharif Bukhari. Host coaching, John Luce. Talent booker, Tess Bartholomew. Production assistant, Terry Kraft. Antonio Cavallo.